लंदन, फलस्तीन को रियासत तस्लीम किया जाए। 220 सरकार ने पार्लिमेंट का برطانوی वज़ीर एअज़म को खत में अक़वाम मत्तहिदा कॉन्फरंस से पहले फलस्तीन की आज़ादी की हिमायत का मुतालबा। बरतानिया के तारीखी किरदार के तनाज़र में फलस्तीन को तस्लीम करने पर जोर। برطانوی पार्लिमान में दहाइयों से 2 रियासती हल पर इत्तफाक राय मौजूद। खत में बरतानिया पर फलस्तीनी रियासत की हिमायत में अमली कदम उठाने का मुतालबा। फलस्तीन को तस्लीम करना बरतानिया की अक़वाम मत्तहिदा में जिम्मेदारी है। खत का मतन 2014 में हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स फलस्तीन को रियासत तस्लीम करने की करारदाद मंजूर कर चुका है। खत में बरतानवी हुकूमत से अगले हफ्ते फलस्तीन को रियासत तस्लीम करने का मुतालबा फलस्तीनी रियासत की हिमायत आलमी शराकतदारों के साथ मिलकर की जाएगी। बरतानिया की फ़लस्तीन की रियासती हैसियत को तस्लीम करने से आलमी सतह पर असर पड़ेगा। पाकिस्तानी नयात मेंबरान पार्लिमान ने भी खत पर दस्तखत किए।
David Taylor, I would be happy to ensure that she gets that meeting. And can I take this opportunity to thank her for being such a champion for her residents and her constituency. I had the honour to visit a couple of times, and I've seen how strongly she fights for clean water in that community.
Speaker, I very much welcome the focus that the Secretary of State is putting now on protecting water customers. Because my constituents in Early and Woodley constituency and I have seen our Thames water bills go up dramatically, and we'll want to know that those bill increases are going towards improving the infrastructure and customer service, as opposed to payouts to bosses that happened so much under the regulator's watch previously. I have a meeting with Thames water bosses in the Reading headquarters next week, and following that meeting, I ask if the Secretary of State will agree to meet with me and fellow Labour MPs working on the issue to discuss how we can better hold Thames water to account on behalf of all of our constituents.
I'm more than happy to make sure that she gets a meeting with an appropriate minister, and I'm sure she'll be pleased to know that this government has ring-fenced customers' money, so it can now only be spent on the purposes it was intended for, including upgrading broken and leaking pipes, no longer diverted to pay for bonuses and dividends, as used to happen under the previous government.
Speaker, what a pleasure it was to welcome the Secretary of State to the water meadows in Bury St Edmunds.
Lovely.
Now, the lark and the linnet in Bury St Edmunds and the gipping in Stowmarket are disgracefully neglected, and my own laboratory tests reveal dangerously high ammonia levels, for I too have become a citizen scientist. Now, I welcome the decision to scrap Ofwat, but will the Minister agree with me that our precious Suffolk chalk streams must be protected?
I absolutely agree with him on that point, and it was indeed a pleasure to visit Bury St Edmunds. He's very lucky indeed to represent such a beautiful part of the country, and in joining the citizen scientists, he's joined a very proud movement, and I'm sure he'll make a very important contribution to their work.
Josh Dean.
Mr Deputy Speaker, can I welcome the Secretary of State's statement today and these ambitious reforms. Around 10% of the UK's chalk streams run through Hertfordshire, and in Harth and Stortford we're lucky to be home to many of these, including the River Stort and the River Lee. So as the Secretary of State announces further action to clean up our water and clean up the water sector, will he reassure local residents in my community that this Labour government will protect our precious local chalk streams?
I'm happy to give him that reassurance. The changes that we're bringing about with this water revolution will reduce levels of pollution in the chalk streams, but also reduce the need for abstractions from those chalk streams, which has been one of the most damaging features of what has been causing such distress to residents in his constituencies across Hertfordshire and other parts of the country.
Goldman.
Mr Deputy Speaker, and I very much welcome the Secretary of State's announcement, which means that Thames Water will no longer, as under the previous Conservative government, be able to treat my constituents with contempt by diverting many millions from the bills paid by local residents to their shelling out dividends to shareholders and paying themselves bonuses, all the while pumping loads of sewage into our river. And the Secretary of State talks about ring fencing. I wonder if I might just clarify, what if Thames doesn't now invest enough of the income it receives in stopping the spills and clearing up the Thames, our river? Is it still fair to say that Thames Water and its directors are still drinking in the last chance saloon?
The new regulatory regime will have much closer supervision of the water companies and will be able to intervene much earlier if there is any sign of them failing to invest in the priorities which they have committed to invest in.
Louise Jones. Mr Deputy Speaker, I was absolutely disgusted to see just this morning reports of a sewage leak in the River Hipper in my constituency of North East Derbyshire. So I welcome the Secretary of State's ambition to tackle this issue. But this is particularly galling because it comes after massive hikes to the bills of those like myself who live in North East Derbyshire. Can the Secretary of State explain how the new Water Ombudsman will help us when we seek to challenge unfair bills?
Well, people will have the right to go to the Ombudsman to take up complaints such as that one or any of the other complaints. Previously, there's been no statutory Ombudsman that water customers had recourse to when they had problems. We will be bringing one in. That will operate along with the much increased levels of compensation that we have already brought in through the Water Special Measures Bill, which I know she supported.
Arthur.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I do congratulate the Minister for the scale of ambition is shown today. There's many issues with the water sector in Scotland, not least the CSO discharges into Collington Dell, the water of Leith there. But one thing it does get right is that in Scotland we understand that to reduce CSO spills, what we have to do is reduce the amount of rainfall going into our combined pipes. And that is done through planning in Scotland. The Cunliffe report makes clear that it's time to enact Schedule 3 of the Flood and Water Management Act, so we do the same in England. Will they take forward that recommendation?
I mean, in my view, and Sir John Cunliffe makes this point, it's very important to align water infrastructure investment with spatial planning so we can tackle the kind of problems that he is referring to. We intend to go ahead with that in England. I've accepted in principle that recommendation already, even ahead of any consultation. The situation will be different in Scotland, of course, because they have an SNP government who hasn't really taken these issues seriously.
Mr Deputy Speaker, residents in my Redditch constituency often ask me how we got to a situation where water company CEOs can oversee record levels of sewage spillage, let our infrastructure crumble and charge hard-pressed customers even more, yet enjoy extortionate bonuses. If this is to be a moment where we draw a line and turn the page on 14 years of failure, would the Secretary of State agree with me? We must never abandon water-paying customers again, like the previous government did.
Yeah. Not only should we never abandon them, we never will abandon them. We are revolutionising the entire sector so that customers' interests are right at the heart of it in a way that they have never been before.
David Burton-Sampson.
Mr Deputy Speaker, and can I congratulate the Secretary of State and his team for their steadfast commitment to cleaning up our waterways and these announcements today, which are welcomed. My constituents in Southend Western Lee care greatly about this scourge after years of neglect by the party opposite pumping sewage into our waters, our beautiful estuary. I also see the government's commitment to banning wet wipes containing plastic, something we discussed recently at our water summit in Southend. Will he meet with me to discuss concerns raised on the actual flushability of some wipes marked as being flushable?
I share his concerns, and I know my honourable friend, the Water Minister, does too. We're happy to make sure he gets his meeting.
John Grady.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I welcome the Independent Water Commission report. It's a serious piece of work. Mr Speaker, the water companies were privatised with no debt, yet following years of dividends, excessive debt and opaque financial structures, the financial stability of the water sector is a cause of very serious concern. Recommendations 56 to 59 and other recommendations engage with this topic very seriously. Will the Secretary of State commit to reviewing very carefully whether many of these recommendations targeted at financial stability can be accelerated ahead of legislation so that resilience is protected along with